a worst-case scenario is unfolding. The conflict between America and Iran is no longer isolated to the Persian Gulf. It has spilled across Europe's borders. It has dragged the United Kingdom into a life-or-death showdown. From RAF Fairford Air Base deep inside British territory, America's B-1B Lancer heavy bombers are taking off night and day. They are unleashing tens of tons of munitions directly onto Iranian targets. In response, Tehran has just issued an unprecedented ultimatum. They declared British military bases a legitimate target for attack. This threat is no harmless psychological tactic. It places the United Kingdom at immediate risk of direct involvement. At the same time, it threatens to trigger Article 5 of the NATO treaty, the ultimate catalyst for a full-scale global war. The British government finds itself trapped in a brutal strategic dilemma. They attempt to calm public backlash by claiming America is only permitted to use the Fairford base for defensive operations. But in modern military doctrine, the line between defense and offense has been completely erased. When stealth missiles rain down on Iranian soil, London's excuses become entirely meaningless in the eyes of Tehran. So, why did the Pentagon make such a high-risk gamble? Why bypass numerous nearby bases in the Gulf? Why force B-1B heavy bombers to execute mission legs spanning thousands of kilometers from British soil? Is this a masterstroke of military strategy? Or is it a catastrophic error that turns America's closest ally into a human shield? To understand why the B-1B Lancer appeared in Britain, we must look at its design. Unlike stealth fighters like the F-35 or F-22, the B-1B Lancer is a true supersonic missile truck. It carries a massive payload of up to 31 tons inside its internal base. That is the largest weapon capacity in the entire United States Air Force arsenal. Deploying the B-1B Lancer is not just a tactical choice. It is a dangerous leap up the escalation ladder. While F-35 fighters execute limited strikes, the B-1B signals maximum destruction. It tells Tehran that Washington is ready to wipe out their strategic infrastructure. This maximum escalation pushed Iran into a corner, forcing them to activate an all-out response. More importantly, the B-1B is deployed for standoff long-range strikes. A single B-1B can carry 24 JASSM-ER stealth cruise missiles. Their strike range exceeds 900 kilometers. American pilots simply press the launch button while loitering in neutral airspace, far beyond the reach of Iran's air defense network. Those 24 stealth missiles then automatically hug the terrain, creeping up and flattening heavily fortified targets. So, why not position these missile trucks at nearby bases in the Gulf, such as Qatar or Kuwait? The answer lies in two critical factors: standoff safety, distance, and runway infrastructure. First, Iran's Feda or Khyber ballistic missiles can reach American bases in the Gulf in under 10 minutes. Stationing B-1B bombers worth hundreds of millions of dollars at these forward bases turns them into sitting ducks right on the tarmac. Second, a B-1B fully loaded with 31 tons of weapons requires specialized infrastructure. It demands an ultra-long runway exceeding 3,000 meters, as well as heavy Cold War munitions storage. RAF Fairford in Britain is one of the very few air bases on Earth built to handle these massive flying fortresses. The Pentagon was forced to pull its strategic bombers all the way back to RAF Fairford, a location that perfectly fits these technical demands while sitting completely outside the range of Iranian missiles. However, this standoff distance created a brand new logistical nightmare. Every combat mission from Britain to the Middle East requires a round-trip flight exceeding 10 hours. It demands a massive fleet of aerial refueling tankers operating continuously over the Mediterranean sky. America successfully protected its B-1B bombers from Iranian missiles. But turning Britain into a launch pad dragged London straight into the line of fire. And Tehran spotted this strategic vulnerability instantly. Could Iran actually unleash missiles directly at RAF Fairford on British soil? Technically speaking, the distance exceeds 5,000 kilometers. Tehran's most formidable ballistic missiles, like the Khorramshahr-4, reach a maximum range of around 2,500 kilometers. A direct strike from Iranian territory against the British mainland is beyond their current technical capability. But strategic planners at the Pentagon know Tehran's threat is not an empty posture. Tehran does not need to launch missiles from home to strike British targets. They could deploy stealth cruise missiles from submarines in the North Atlantic. They could activate sleeper special forces networks deep within Europe. Or they could execute a far more surgical strike, showering firepower onto RAF Fairford in Cyprus. This is London's true Achilles heel. Cyprus sits well within the range of Iranian missiles. More importantly, under Article 6 of the NATO Treaty, collective defense only covers territories in the North Atlantic and north of the Tropic of Cancer. Akrotiri Air Base in the Mediterranean falls completely outside NATO's geographical protection scope. If Iran flattens this base, they deal a devastating blow to British morale. Yet London remains helpless to invoke Article 5 to drag 32 NATO nations into retaliation. However, if Iran recklessly strikes mainland Britain at RAF Fairford, London would be forced to invoke Article 5. This is the exact nightmare scenario Washington fears. America wants a swift campaign. But dragging the entire NATO alliance into a war with Iran opens the door for counter-intervention by rival superpowers. Despite being bogged down in Ukraine, Russia still holds a deadly joker card, military satellite navigation networks, and advanced electronic warfare systems. Moscow could silently beam real-time targeting coordinates of B-1B strike packages to Tehran, turning American airstrikes into a disaster. Meanwhile, China will not stand idly by. Beijing stands ready to pump financial lifelines, supply dual-use technology, and wield its veto power at the UN to turn America's campaign into an endless swamp of attrition. Fully aware of this trap, Iran chose a far more asymmetrical response. They opened a second front at the Bab al-Mandab Strait in the southern Red Sea. Instead of facing B-1B squadrons directly in the skies, Iran instructed its Houthi proxies to use low-cost missiles and UAV drones to relentlessly strike oil tankers. While America burns resources securing the Strait of Hormuz, Iran instantly squeezes Bab al-Mandab. This dual-choke strategy immediately rocketed global oil prices past $100 a barrel. America and Britain may hold overwhelming air power, but Iran and its allies control the economic bloodstream of the world. They turned costly B-1B airstrikes into a hollow military victory as the Western world begins to fracture under an escalating energy crisis. The crisis at RAF Fairford exposes a bitter truth in American military doctrine. Overwhelming firepower no longer guarantees an easy victory. The Pentagon can pull its $100 million B-1B Lancers all the way back to Britain to escape missile ranges. They can rain down hundreds of JASSM-ER stealth cruise missiles to destroy military targets. But they cannot destroy an asymmetrical strategy designed to absorb impact and strike back. By threatening British bases and expanding the war into the Red Sea, Iran has proven a critical point. In a high-stakes political war, the master of the game is not the one with the fastest jets or the most expensive missiles. It is the one who can drag their opponent into an economic and diplomatic quagmire. Dragging their British ally into the line of fire has not brought Washington a swift victory. Instead, it fractures NATO from within. It drives global oil prices past $100. And it turns a peaceful military base in the heart of Europe into the primary target of a life or death showdown. So, will the deployment of B-1B heavy bombers from British soil force Tehran to back down? Or will Iran's economic chokehold and proxy war network turn this campaign into America's next strategic defeat? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to decode the hidden mechanics of war machines before they reshape history, hit the subscribe button so you never miss our next analysis. Thank you for watching.